bills exploded this year.
Has anybody here heard any good lawyer jokes recently?
And a special Moneyline report on the Y2K threat, machine or man-made. An in-depth look at combating fraud and terrorism as the clock counts down.
This is the Moneyline News Hour. Reporting tonight from New York, Stuart Varney.
Good evening, everyone. Willow is off this evening. We begin tonight with a stock market that had more fizzle than sizzle. The Nasdaq squeaked to another record high, reversing an earlier loss. But try as they might, the Dow Industrial simply couldn't follow through on Thursday's runaway rally. Rhonda Schaffler is standing by live at the New York Stock Exchange. She's been following all the action today. What's the latest, Rhonda?
Stuart, investors here less than inspired today with virtually no economic or corporate news to move the markets. And some say today could actually be the busiest session of the week. The day started off well. The Dow Industrials extended last week's record run at one point up nearly 70 points. But losses for Hewlett-Packard and AT&T put pressure on the blue chips. They ended up closing down 14 points at 11,391. Volume on the big board, more than 722 million shares. Losers, though, beat out winners by a margin of nearly 3-2. The number of new 52-week highs, 97, versus the number of new lows, 324. And weighing on the Dow, Philip Morris, the stock lost 1 1/8 after the Florida Supreme Court refused to hear a class action lawsuit against the tobacco industry. Cigarette makers wanted the court to reverse an October decision to give smokers a lump sum award instead of awarding damages on a case-by-case basis. Hewlett-Packard was down more than 4, AT&T down 2. On the plus side today, General Electric and Walmart. That's it from here. Stuart, back to you.
Rhonda, let's go back to last week's stellar rally, if we may, because all over the holiday weekend, I've been hearing people say it can't go on like this. Have you been hearing something similar down there?
I think we heard that several thousand points ago, didn't we? I mean, that is the big surprise with this market. It does just keep on going. And even when you've got a situation like interest rates rising, even that's not deterring investors. And certainly we've learned throughout this year that investors aren't even deterred when the companies they're investing in aren't making any money.
No such thing as bad news anymore. Rhonda Schaffler, right there at the big board. Thanks, Rhonda. Now, the bright spot on Wall Street today was, no surprise here, the Nasdaq, of course. A bruising sell-off in internet stocks pushed the index down as many as 67 points, but in typical Nasdaq fashion, the index came back again. Charles Molyneux has been following the action from the Nasdaq Amex market site. He joins us live. Charles?
You got it, Stuart. The Nasdaq's 59th record finish of the year isn't much of a change from its previous close, but it was a wild and volatile ride before enthusiasm for tech stocks overpowered another wave of profit-taking. For the second straight day, the composite barely jumped above the 4,000 mark to a high of 4,001. Then investors sold off and sent it plummeting 99 points. Then, in the final hour, buyers charged into the market again and pushed the tech stocks to a record territory once more, up 5 points to 39.75. The favorite sector of the past two sessions shown again. Biotechs were up by 1%. Interneuron, which had been swept down in the fen-phen fiasco, rallied on news of its new anxiety drug, up 52%. The big caps were mixed. Microsoft gained on the day, but Dell managed to fall. The powerhouse internet stock slipped 2%, led by Amazon.com, which lost almost 10% of the day today, but Yahoo pulled off a late-day turnaround to gain 3%. The broader market stayed negative. Stocks that went down outnumbered those that went up by almost 3-2. The market strategists say investors remain sold on the prospects for techs. The tax loss selling that fricasseed some of the worst performers over the past few sessions is pretty much over, and that they've got their party hats out for the Nasdaq to close over 4,000. Stuart?
Buy all dips, sell no rallies. Charles Muller at the Nasdaq.
Still at
it. Indeed, you got it right. Thanks, Charles. Now, as Charles just reported, internet retailers pressured the Nasdaq today. Bank Boston Robertson Stevens was talking down the e-tailers, saying many of them were unable to meet the strong demand this holiday season. The firm downgraded e-toys, and that stock sank $5. Other e-tailers followed suit. Amazon, as you just heard, down 8 7/8. eBay down more than 8 1/4. Barnes & Noble dropped 3/4 on the day. Both online and offline, this holiday shopping season appears to be one for the record books. The final numbers haven't been tallied yet, but retailers are already reporting sales beyond even the rosiest forecasts. From Washington, Kelly Arena has more on the 1999 Christmas buying binge.
Cash registers are still jingling with Yuletide cheer as consumers search the malls for after-holiday bargains. Store managers predict holiday sales will top last year's record level.
The numbers aren't totally done yet, and we'll see everything in January, but from what I see so far and where we're at right now, it's going to be much better.
The National Retail Federation says among the most popular buys were consumer electronics and luxury items such as jewelry. Sales of those items up as much as 25% over last year. While most retailers won't report sales results until January 6th, retail analysts say they expect official figures to show consumers spent at least $185 billion this holiday season, a 6.5% jump over last year.
Each one of the retailers, whether online or offline or in stores, executed incredibly well. They managed their inventory. In general, their profit margins were higher than a year ago. Consumer confidence gave the spending power to the consumer, and they all went shopping.
Tashjian estimates holiday online purchases at about $7 billion, more than double last year's figure despite some glitches. One recent study by Anderson Consulting estimates that 1 in 4 online transactions went wrong somehow. And what's more,
the season for the e-tailers really ended not on the 23rd or the 24th, but on the 15th, 16th, 17th, because they didn't have the ability to deliver by Christmas Day.
Setbacks aside, consumers continue to surprise even the most optimistic Wall Street analysts as Christmas shopping seamlessly transitions into millennium buying.
I'm going to get a bite to eat, then I'm going to go shopping again.
Kelly Arena, CNN Financial News, Washington.
Turning now to some of the day's other top stories outside the world of business. No word of any progress tonight in talks with the hijackers of an Indian Airlines plane. Indian officials arrived in Afghanistan today to negotiate with the gunmen who are still holding 155 hostages. The hijackers are demanding the release of Kashmiri militants held in Indian prisons and have threatened to kill hostages if they do not get what they want. Also in the news, Moscow's continuing deadly campaign to take the Chechen capital Grozny. It's day 3 and 4,500 civilians are reported trapped. Russian troops have run into tougher-than-expected resistance from Chechen rebels. Moscow says it hopes to control the city by New Year's Day. And less than a half hour away, a landing for the Space Shuttle Discovery. After scrubbing one try earlier today because of high winds, Discovery's 7-member crew is to touch down at 7:01 at the Kennedy Space Center. We'll bring you the landing live as it happens. And a millionaire rap music producer arrested along with a top actress. New York police say they pulled over Sean Puffy Combs and actress Jennifer Lopez as they drove away from a club where 3 people were shot and wounded. Officers allegedly found a stolen pistol in their car. Combs and Lopez were charged with criminal possession of a weapon, but prosecutors have now dropped their case against the actress. Police say neither Combs nor Lopez was involved in the dispute that led to the shooting. Now let's take a quick look at some of the other stories we're working on for later in this broadcast. And first up is Fred Katayama. Fred?
The stock of Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway has lost more than 30% so far this year. Has the Oracle of Omaha lost the Midas touch?
I'm Bruce Francis. A record year for initial public offerings. I'll tell you which ones performed the best and what's ahead for 2000. Stuart?
All right, also coming up, the clock ticks steadily toward Y2K, but is it man or machine that poses the greatest threat? And a review of the up and down year for the man who profited most from the computer revolution. Also, we'll talk about what's ahead for the markets with Dick McCabe and Joe McAlinden. Stay with us. We'll be right back for you.
Moneyline News Hour is brought to you by the Archer Daniels Midland Company. ADM, supermarket to the world.
Generally, we don't think much about America's biggest business, our largest employer, more than 1/10 of our gross national product. What is it? Our food and agricultural complex. 22 million jobs related to it. Food processing, transportation, financial services. Less than 10% are actual farmers. In early America, almost everyone was a farmer. Washington, Jefferson, all up to today. American farms help fuel the growth of our nation. Now, with their great productivity and sophisticated methods, just over 2 million U.S. farmers feed and feed well 265 million Americans. And they grow enough excess food to make agribusiness the single largest contributor to our balance of trade. Yet we just take it for granted. Think about it.
This Food for Thought is brought to you by the Archer Daniels Midland Company.
Tonight, in the crossfire, America's melting pot in the new millennium. The Census Bureau predicts whites could become a minority. How will the races get along? Tonight, 7:30 Eastern on CNN.
America prepares for the first election of the new millennium. The faces, issues, and ideas that will change the American political landscape and the balance of power. Only one network will provide the depth of programming, covering the live breaking story with the most experienced team of journalists ever assembled on television and online. America's campaign headquarters for Election 2000 is CNN.
Tonight, on the Emmy Award-winning Larry King Live, we'll have a millennium's worth of guests throughout December. Tonight, Larry's special guest is Jodie Foster. It's a millennium month of guests. Tonight, 9 Eastern, and all month, only on CNN.
In tonight's Moneyline movers, Commerce One climbed more than 57 points. The stock split 3-for-1 today after increasing 35-fold since it went public in July. In fact, the business-to-business e-commerce company was the second best IPO of the year. And we'll take a special look at the record year in IPOs. That's coming up later on Moneyline. Another mover, Interneuron, surged at 2 3/8, hitting a new 52-week high. Warner Lambert purchased the rights to Interneuron's experimental drug to treat panic and anxiety disorders. And then there's Qualcomm again. It shot up nearly 47 points this time. Shares of the telecom firm will split 4-for-1 on Thursday. Qualcomm has had a blistering run-up this year. It is up nearly 2,000. Repeat, 2,000%. A mixed day overall for the markets, though, with the Dow and S&P pausing for breath as the Nasdaq eked out another record, but it's still been a very powerful year. The Nasdaq leading the way, it's up 81%, the Dow gaining 24%, the S&P 500 up 18%. Question, can these markets keep up this blistering pace? For some insight, we're joined by Dick McCabe, Chief Market Analyst at Merrill Lynch, and Joe McAlinden, Chief Investment Officer at Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Good evening.
First of all, Dick, you've been calling for a tech stock correction, I'm going to call it. You've been calling for this for some time. When do you see it happening?
Well, I think there's a good chance it may happen as we get into January. Some of those stocks are beginning to pull back even now, like Internet in the last day or two. But I think this turn-of-the-year period has often been a time when in-favor stocks or little speculative bubbles tend to correct, like energy year-end 1980 and the biotechs in year-end 1992 and the Nifty 50 back in January 1973. So we may see a change in these next few weeks. I'm hoping we will, to give a chance as we go through 2000 to get the average stock to move up as opposed to the averages going up in 1999.
You want this to happen because you think that money will come out of the big name techs and go into different sectors of the market.
Well, I think it might make it a healthier market if we get away from this isolated strength in one part of the market. It's kind of like water going through a funnel into a real frizzle. And I think it might be better if we got more stocks stacked better as we go along.
Joe, a correction is coming, yes or no?